It's the aluminium one.
Oh yeah, this is 30. Yeah,
Yeah, the top one, the 808, was the very first like fake Chinese bike thing I got,
yeah,
and a friend brought it for me, and so a Chinese friend, where he was also into cycling,
yeah.
and it was my birthday. He said, "I got you a gift," and I see it, and I'm like, this was before I even naive me, before I even knew there was fake stuff out there, and I'm like, you got me a zip wheel? Like what?
Yeah.
Like I knew he wasn't a very well off guy. I'm like, how? My mind was blown. And again, I started to look closely. I'm like, I don't think zip wheels should come with Novatec hubs.
Yeah. Even though, in my
Uh,
opinion, the Novatec is a better hub than the Zip hub. Yeah.
Shots fired.
Yeah,
Shots
like
fired.
even my, I got a couple pair of Zip wheels, and the rims I like, but the hubs, man, they're shocking. Like, I would never ever buy a bike that had Zip wheels on it again. Like if it was brand new, I wouldn't buy brand name stuff because I've just had bad experiences with the hubs of Zip, and that's not just me. A lot of people do as well. Well, I can see another wheel in the background there. Is that another Zip wheel? That sort of serrated rim. It's like a Zip
Yeah,
style.
that's a China Zip special.
Yeah, well,
I built, that was the first wheels I built up myself. And again, so yeah, these knockoff 454 style rims.
yeah. Is it disc?
Not a disc.
It's a rim brake. Okay.
Yeah, there's the cassette still on there.
Oh, it's a cassette,
Yeah,
disc. Okay.
not,
To go
and
right?
I bought those basically for the YouTube clickbait. So
That's
I
right.
saw them when the 454s were still pretty new.
Yeah.
I saw them on Taobao, which is like the Chinese eBay.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this could be some kind of clickbait. I'll buy a set of these and build them up. But to be fair, they were a lot better than I thought. The braking surface on them especially, I really rate it. So.
That's the thing. You just want obviously you want a safe hook B, but you want good braking surface, and that's the main thing. Like my
Yeah.
lightweights, the braking surface is just horrendous, horrendous. Horrendous.
Like my stance on all the fake stuff, and there's no right stance, there's no wrong stance. It's just my stance. Is that I think as long as they're not trying to con people, like if they
Exactly.
were actually like badged up as Zip and trying to
Yeah,
rip people off of
that's
the
wrong.
money,
That's wrong.
then that's wrong. And of course, people will say, "Oh, but they're stealing their intellectual property." Blah blah blah. You're right, but I'm guessing the same person who tries to lecture me about intellectual property, he goes on the Pirate Bay and torrents
Exactly.
Breaking Bad or whatever every day. So
I think everyone's copying everyone these days
And, like-
anyway. But I think if you're selling, a counterfeit product at that's then I don't agree with that. Like if you're trying to sell a Pinarello, Ginarello, well they're all made in China, but a copy Pinarello as a
I agree
Pinarello
100%.
price, that's wrong.
I agree 100%. And because the main reason, so if we start talking about Chinese open mold frames or whatever,
Yep.
and are they safe or whatever, and so your only safety that you really have with this stuff is that no brand wants a picture on the internet of their bike like in two pieces with
Bingo.
their logo like split in two pieces.
Bingo.
And so if you're buying something that's unbranded, they've got nothing to fear because there's no logo on it. Like if you smash their bike, it doesn't hurt their reputation. And so, but if you have a brand, I know you've got your Pragma brand going on. Like the last thing you want to see is I assume it won't happen, but the last thing you want to see is a Pragma on the internet in two pieces.
Yeah.
And so that gives you motivation to make sure your Pragmas are good quality.
Yeah,
But
coming
if you're
from
buying
a
something
good
with
factory.
no brand on it,
Yeah,
they don't have that motivation.
that's true.
And where going into counterfeit stuff, where that breaks that down is then you take out that trust, because if you're just putting anyone's logo on something and claiming it's legit,
Yeah, you don't know where.
then if it breaks and they thought it was legit, then you're hurting the other brand's reputation. So
Yeah, that's it. I think you should use your own brand. Use your own brand. Yeah, I'm just moving the cat here. Oh,
no worries.
here we go. All right, here we are. But what's it like? What's it like? Oh, hang on, here we go. It's yeah, that's an interesting one, because I was like, these Chinese bikes. People would ask me about them. Harley, what do you think about them? And I had no idea. I was just like, I don't know. And I was always like, better to stick with the big brand. And then you see Merida has a big recall on the forks, or Specialized has a recall, Bianchi has a recall, Cannondale has a recall, and you're thinking, hang on, like,
Yep.
what's happening here is, and I talked to a few people in the industry who wish to be unnamed, and they, were sales reps for big brands or worked at, certain industry or distributor, and they were just saying that, that like, it's hard to really do quality control because they'll produce, say 15,000 forks, and that's Gen 1. And so it's basically the riders are the sort of guinea pigs for those because they haven't been raced at the pro level. And, because often it's like race on Sunday, sell on Monday sort of thing. So the bikes hasn't really been thrashed hard because of fear of media embargoes, etc. So you often, when you buy a brand new, let's say like the new Specialized tarmac that's coming out, that's a brand new design. We don't know how safe that fork is. Might pass QC, or it will have to pass QC, but we don't know what it's like in the real world, how durable it will be. Even Cervelo, did you see, what's his name, Raul Lucia Technic? Yeah, so he chopped up a Cervelo S5 recently and just critiquing the fork design, just saying it's causing delamination when you turn the bars too much or whatever. I'm just like, that's crazy. So that's an example that it will pass QC, pass quality control, but it won't pass real world control. Imagine that in 10 years' time, those forks in the market, like they could be failing left, right, and center.
I'm sure that going back to the Cervelo thing, I'm guessing it was designed by a guy who's never ridden a bike.
Yes. Just, I call embarrassed.
Like he was like, oh, I have to stop this from doing this. I'll do this. Like, but he didn't. He's never ridden a bike, so he doesn't know that when you crash, your handlebars hit the floor and boom, it's going to smack that fork into the metal stop and just delaminate your head shield.
Oh my god! Man, it's crazy. Like people, and you can sort of tell people this stuff, like, and they just think, you're an idiot. What do you? I even have conversations on Facebook Messenger. I see people selling a bike or whatever, and they've got the uncut steerer with no spacer in it, and I'm like, man, your fork could fail. And they're like, do you want to buy the bike or not? And I'm like, you shouldn't sell that bike unless you get it checked out, man. And they're like, see ya, or they block you, or they leave the conversation. It's just like, man, I was just trying to help you out. Like, you got a product that can kill someone, man.
Yeah, people want to keep the blinders on. Yes. But like going back to the Cervelo thing, and again, I'm not digging on Cervelo, but if a Chinese brand did that, it would be all over the internet. It would be like, oh look, it's so stupid, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But Cervelo do it, and you just get one guy on the internet calling them out, who is Raul, who like credit to him for calling them out. I think. And that's what you were saying about YouTube these days. I think people are starting to get more interested in it. Yeah. You've got channels like yourself. You've got Hambini, who's always a good one. You've got Raul. I guess you've got China Cycling or whatever, who are like showing people the other side.
Definitely,
but it's a numbers war, And again, nothing against GCN, but they're coming up to like 2 million subscribers or something.
Yeah,
and I think all of the channels I just mentioned all together probably only have like 500,000 or whatever. So.
Yeah, GCN have they obviously have a what's the word? It's corporate style, and so they have to toe the line, and that's just how the wages are paid, and I totally understand that, and I think other people do. A lot of people understand it as well. It's just that's. And I think GCN's great having them out there. They do a lot of great videos on how to fix a derailleur and stuff like that, and some new bike tech. But
agree.
It is interesting reading some of the comment section of how some of the new riders out there they take any marketing hype with hook, line, and sinker, and then you try and tell them the truth, and they get angry at you. It's hilarious.
Yeah, like.
It's funny like that. Human nature, we're funny like that. I mean, I respect people massively if someone's going to take time out of their busy day to say, hey, Harley, you're doing it all wrong, mate. This is how you do it. I'm like, oh, man, thanks so much. I'm not going to say, hey, shut up. I'm just going to be like, you know what, man? You cared. Like, you stopped what you're doing and you said, Harley, you're doing it do it this way. You'll get a better result. I'm like, man, thanks so much. So I just treat people how I want to be treated. And, it's amazing. Yep. It's amazing. What, so... Yeah, cost of living. Getting back to China again. Cost of living. How? What's the cheapest rental we could get where you're staying? You reckon for someone who wants to do the budget Chinese experience? Is it an expensive city where you're at?
So prices in China in general like vary a lot, like from city to city. I'd say more than most Western countries in terms of the prices. Like back in the UK where I'm from, apart from London, like most other places are probably a very similar price. But in China, the price between cities is just astronomically different.
Wow.
Renting is a bit better, but for purchasing, the price difference is absolutely crazy. Like literally like 20 times price difference from one city to another to buy a house. 20 times.
All right, 20 times, man.
And
That's insane.
so China is so mind-boggling because so in obviously the cities where people are earning 20 times as much money to buy their 20 times as expensive houses, but they buy a bottle of Coke or they buy an iPhone or they buy a Specialized, it's the same price.
Yeah.
So you just got this super weird economy where in the rich cities, the people are as rich as people in the West, but in the poor cities, it's it's poor, obviously.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, but to go back to the original question, the city where I am, Xiamen, is probably like in the top 25% ish of expensive cities. So
Yep.
it's middle of the road ish. For rent, again, the more you pay, the bigger you get. But I've got an apartment going on here with 3 bedrooms, 130 square meters, and I pay like 3,000 yuan per month, which is about, what's that, like 300 pounds British or about 400-ish dollars US.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but eating and drinking are a lot cheaper.
Wow.
In terms of living costs. Like
That's pretty good. 400 US a month, so about 100 US a week.
Yeah.
And what sort of lease do you have to have? 6 month, 12 month, 2 year, 1 month, or is it? How does it work on average?
The least you can probably get is 3 months, and then the longer you go for, the better deal you can get, kind of thing.
So is it easy to get rentals? Yep. Is there a property shortage?
No, it's easy. So that's another super interesting thing about China is the housing market. Like loads of people buy houses here as investments. But what that does, it obviously pushes the prices of housing up, and then people who want to actually buy the house to live in it, they can't afford to. And so then those guys have to go and rent from the guys who bought the apartments as investments.
Yeah.
So that really adds to the wealth gap in China as well. Like the rich getting richer because they have a bunch of properties each that they can rent out, and then jacking up the prices. So people on lower incomes, they can't afford the housing, and so they have to rent. So,
interesting.
But in general, there's definitely enough houses to go around because real estate here is just crazy. Like the local government owns all the land, and they can just say, okay, this block here, this 1 square kilometer, we're going to sell it off as real estate. And if there's a village on there, if there's something on there, I'm sorry, you're getting relocated because I want to sell this land. And then that's one of the main ways that local Chinese governments make money is by selling land to real estate developers.
Wow. So no one owns the land but the government there.
Yep. No, only the government can own land. Like if you buy an apartment in China, you only own it for 70 years. After 70 years, it's no longer yours.
Whose is it? The government again?
Yeah, like, yeah. So another interesting thing is the building probably won't last 70 years.
Yes.
And then not necessarily because of construction quality, just because they love knocking down old things and rebuilding it.
Yeah, they do, man.
Again, I think it's a GDP thing. You know, we've got to keep people in construction, got to keep people working. But you see like a shopping mall that's been open for like 5-10 years with housing apartments above it get knocked down and replaced with something bigger and shinier. And like, wow. I'm sure all that concrete and all that cement going into the air is not good, but
yeah,
that's the China we're living in.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think everyone should go to China to see how the world works over there, where all the stuff comes from.
You can just sit at the side of the road and just watch, and it's just totally different to what you used to. Like everything, like the way they run the electric cables down the road, the way they do the garbage or the rubbish collection or whatever. Everything's just totally different. So when I first got here, and to this day actually, like just walking outside, it's like watching a documentary.
Yeah.
Like, you learn something new. And even today, I've been here 11 years. Every day I see something I've never seen before.
Wow. That's crazy, man. It's like, it's the work ethic in China is pretty strong, yeah?
Definitely.
Why? Wonder why it is so strong. All the rice.
I think it's all the carbs. Yeah, they're on they're carved the F up, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the reason they work so hard is just because the pressure, like
Competition.
Yeah, competition, like the numbers game. You got to stick out. You got to work harder than the competition around you.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. That they just they don't mess around. I'm keen to go there sometime. What?
Definitely, it's eye opening.
And so, how's your YouTube channel going in terms of like, do you get many Chinese kids watching you or?
Yeah, so I started the YouTube channel back when I was doing the English teaching thing.
Yeah.
And me and my wife had a business going on, and like I say, I'm like you. I'm a bike nerd, so I'd be teaching English, but in the back of my head, I'm just thinking about bikes and I wonder if I can get a 34 tooth cassette on this medium cage derailleur. Blah, blah, I'm gonna try after work, like all this stuff, And so it just came too much. I was like, nah, I've got to give in. I've got to just try and make this more full time. And so when I tried. I also do some consultation work with some Chinese brands, and some translation work, like helping them translate their manuals or whatever. And so I thought it got to the point where I could probably make the hop to doing it full time. Like, had a bit of money saved up, and basically wanted to leave the air quality in the city where I had my previous business. So I made the jump down here to start doing like YouTube more full time. Full time YouTube on only like 18,000 subscribers. That's something you can probably only do in China, just because the living costs are so low. But literally, I'd been in this city for like 3 weeks when I broke my leg, and it was like, oh well, that was a good plan, wasn't it? Like, I came here to make cycling videos, and now I can't ride a bike. But luckily, I managed to get a few extra gigs, like helping out Winspace, one of the brands here, helping them out with their social media stuff. That kept me putting food on the table, and I love those guys too. They got really, really good attitude or whatever.
It's almost good that happened. You had a bit of a break, pun intended, and it just gives you opportunity to network and reach out.
Yeah, definitely. And so what you're asking about, if any Chinese guys are watching the YouTube, so obviously YouTube is blocked in China, but some of the smart guys then to get around, like join a VPN or whatever. But I've also started a second channel on like the Chinese equivalent of YouTube called Bilibili.
Bilibili.
And got it. Yeah, Bilibili. It's good, man.
Wow.
I think I saw some people on there illegally re-uploading some Durianrider videos.
Oh, that's cool.
The advertising money on Bilibili is like even worse than YouTube. It's probably like a tenth of YouTube. So
I'd be.
It's nothing.
It would make my day if someone's uploading my content and making money. I mean, to be honest, I don't care about it at all. People are welcome to upload my content, monetize it. I'm all about getting the message out there.
Yeah, go for it.
One dude uploaded one of the videos. It got like, I think it was over 30 million views. It was this potato fruits that look like sex things. And this is back in 2011, 2012 when YouTube was paying bank. And it got like 30 million views before YouTube took it off or whatever. And that's about 90 grand. And I sent the person a message. Said, I don't know who you are, mate, but good on you and enjoy the money. Happy for you. Yeah,
I wonder where he is now, huh?
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, that's the power of social media. So yeah, so Bilibili, I'd recommend smashing that hard.
Yeah. But again, so like we were saying before off camera, like I think the Westerners, they're really intrigued by this Chinese stuff, like that they've never heard of, whatever. But the Chinese guys, they're more intrigued by the Western stuff. So
yeah.
So on my Bilibili channel, like it's less about like Chinese bike tech because they're like they don't find that interesting, and it's more about showing them like how people ride in the West, or just trying to bring some knowledge from the West through to them, like things like training and nutrition and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, I'm no super coach. I've done a few small courses, and like anyone else, listen to lots of podcasts, watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah, it's all basic stuff.
Everyone, well, yeah, but everyone watches a few videos and they think they're an expert, or whatever. But I don't claim to be an expert. But literally, because there's no YouTube in China, these guys just don't even have access to that. So even by taking everything you learn from these YouTube videos and just condensing it for them in Chinese, like they can get a lot of gains out of it.
It's powerful.
That's more what my Chinese channel is about.
Yeah, man, for sure. If you ever want to do any videos, interview me for the Bilibili, I'm down, man.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Again, like I said, lots of your videos get re-uploaded and stuff, so I'm
That's good,
sure.
man. And feel free to use any of my content, in your videos,
Okay.
whatever, man. Like if you Bilibili or YouTube or whatever, I don't care, man. Just put it out there, get it out there. I'm all for getting more bums on bikes and getting people on the rice and the good stuff. So that's all
Yeah.
good. What's that?
And that reminds me. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you gonna say? I was gonna cut you off.
No, sorry. Well, you said getting more bums on bikes, and like you think, well, it's China, like they shouldn't have a problem with getting bums on bikes. But like what we think of everyone in China riding a bike, that China is pretty much dead. Like
Really?
when even the 11 years I've been here, when I first came here, it was just bikes everywhere.
Oh,
Everyone's
no.
just riding their own bike, and it's like the old flying pigeon style bike.
Yeah.
Everyone was riding them. You go past a middle school or a high school and just like racks and like a sea of bikes. But now you go past a high school or middle school, it's all like electric bikes, like the little e-scooter things.
Yeah. Wow.
And
amazing.
like no one really rides a bike for commuting these days. Like around 2 or 3 years ago, it came back a little bit when like the OFO bikes came out, like the public shared bikes that you can put whatever. That really took off for a bit, but then local governments didn't really like those. But now, because of China's history and how the working class was like built on riding bikes, now no one wants to be seen as working class.
That's right.
So
That's right.
no one wants to ride a bike. So it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. Like the bike that basically built this country or built this country's economy is now just seen as like, oh well, I don't want to be associated with that.
Low status item. That's nuts. Bit like
when I used to go to
dark skin or something.
Yeah, like when I used to go to business meetings or something, like before the business meeting, I'd be like, is there a place to park my bike or can I bring my bike inside? And like instantly the person you're organizing the business meeting with, just like they assume you're useless or you must be really bad at your job because why is he riding a bike?
Yeah.
Like if he was good at his job, he'd be driving a car. Like
That's right.
It's just totally different way of thinking.
It's smart but dumb.
It was funny when I was in my crash. I was on one of my Specialized LA, and it's got a few nice spots in it, like red E-tap or whatever. And the insurance guy came out, and he was like, well, I phoned him up first, and he was like, oh, a bike, just tell me how much it is, and we'll write the check. And I told him how much it is, and I guess US dollars, we're talking about around 4,000 US dollars. Yeah, 4,000 US dollars. Yep. And like he was like, it's a bike? I'm like, yes. He's like, you mean a motorbike? I'm like, no. It's like a bike, yes, with 2 wheels, yes. $4,000, yes. Okay, I'm coming. And then he came and like had to explain to him like why it's blah blah blah. So yeah, the bike in China and most Chinese people's perception of the bike now, is not great. And I think that's something that the Chinese bike brands should really try working on changing. But also, if the Western bike brands, if they really want to get big here, I think they need to help change that mentality too. Yeah,
I think that's where you're going to be a middleman there, Joe. Like, I think you're going to be a catalyst of change in the industry, and I think you're going to become an important figure in cycling in the next decade. You're in a hot seat right now, and things are changing with the internet and Corona or bike racing, bike packing, gravel bikes, and stuff like that. It's and people becoming more people just shopping online. People shopping online more and more. So I think you're in an interesting position because you have interesting contacts and sit in an interesting and you speak language as well, and you're a bike geek. So there's not many people in the world like you.
It's pretty like I never realized what you just said until like a few months ago and stuff like again, this is going to sound like a bit clickbaity because I can't really say the whole conversation, but the people who I've ended up in the same room as, just because they also do deals with this factory or because they're trying to do something in China, it's pretty mental. Like China is definitely, like you say, it's a hotbed. Everyone wants a piece of the pie, and everyone and anyone is here trying to get their foot in the door.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's wow. It's
I
interesting
heard
times.
you mentioned gravel. Just do you do any gravel yourself or?
Oh, I started with sort of BMX riding, mountain biking back in the 90s and 80s, and we'd go on fire roads and dirt tracks, and so I often ride my road bike on gravel. I do have a gravel bike, which is basically just a fancy name for a cyclocross bike, but with a few more bottle mounts on it and better tyre clearance. But yeah, I like riding all sorts of different bikes. I think gravel seems to be taking off a lot. I see a lot of people riding gravel bikes to work at the moment, even though they're just riding on the tarmac. But that seems to be the biggest sector right now, gravel bikes. What do you think?
This is yeah, again, this is one of those things where, so even I don't think I've explained it very well so far, but like the people who are really into their road bikes in China, like they're pretty similar to people in the West, they've got power meters, they're doing their training, like it's like anyone in the West.
Yeah.
There's just not that many of them. But the gravel scene that's taken over in the West just does not exist here. And I think the main reason is that, ironically, China, the infrastructure is too good. Like, there are no gravel roads left. Like, China just tarmacs everything. Anywhere you go in, there's a 6-lane road. For me to find a gravel road, I don't think I could find a gravel road within like 50 Ks of where I am.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm next to giant mountains. But in the mountains, they'll tunnel, they'll bridge, they'll do crazy engineering to put a nice, pristine road, which as a road cyclist, you're loving it because, so many switchbacks everywhere and everything. But if you did want to get into gravel, there's nowhere to ride gravel.
And the roads are generally too good to need fatter tires.
Yeah.
It's road
so
territory.
Things like potholes and stuff, like potholes don't really exist here. There'll be like bad repair jobs on some places, but I think the roads here are better than the UK roads for sure.
That's what I hear. Same in Thailand, the roads are better there than Australia. Once you're outside of Bangkok, have you been in Thailand before?
No. So now that I'm living the expat life or whatever, whenever I have free time, I go back home. So it's really hard to explore other places that are around here. So Asia, I've only been to Indonesia and to China.
Yeah, wow. No, that's very interesting. Where do you see China, cycling in China going? Like, is the road scene getting bigger, or recreational cycling, fitness cycling?
It's interesting because I'd say a big difference here is that the marketing of the Western companies, it doesn't really reach here, so they can't really brainwash people. So lots of people are into road bikes, but I've got friends who are riding like first generation Cannondale Super Sixes.
Yeah, wow.
With like 105 from however many years ago. And at the time he bought it, it was really expensive, whatever. But you do a little bit of basic maintenance, and that bike's going to last you forever.
It is.
And so there's this thing now that most of the cyclists in China, they're the nerds who they always want the latest stuff and stuff. But most people, they've already got their road bike. It's got rim brakes. It's like 7 kilos more or less. Yep. There's not really much that can get better.
That's right. In Australia, it's all aero disc bikes at the moment. Aero disc and gravel.
Yep.
Yeah, I reckon that original Super 6 would ride faster and lighter than the Super 6 disc at the moment, I reckon.
Yeah, and nothing like the original Super 6, like
2008
decent bike.
Came out. It was a light bike.
You got a good memory for these years.
Yeah, just bike geek. What what's the most popular sport in China at the moment? Is it soccer or running or
basketball is king in China.
Yeah, basketball. That's true. And what about fitness? Do people walk over there, or in the afternoons or evenings? The exercise mindset.
Yeah. I think people are probably on average. I'd say on average, people are more into fitness than in the West. But I'd say the people who are into fitness maybe not into it as much as people in the West. Like, I feel like, and again, I probably don't have a very good perspective of people in the West, but I feel like people in the West who are into fitness, like, they really go at it hard and it becomes a big part of their life. But in China, like almost everyone is into fitness, but not to the same level. Like
Yes.
they'll just do a run like once a week on their own,
Yep.
and they'll use an app to track it, and they'll share it to their friends or whatever. But they don't really make it into a hobby and try to beat their times and stuff. They just do it just to stay fit.
Yeah, gotcha. And is Strava's taken off a bit there, or?
So it's pretty messed up because Google is blocked in China, and so Strava, the app, relies on the Google Play
That's
services
right.
to work. So you have to do a whole bunch of like side loading of apps and stuff to get Strava working on your phone. And even so, Garmin did something shady where they. This is a really really long story, and I'm trying to think of
That's right.
the most condensed way to say it. Basically, if you're offering a service in China, you have to make everything on the servers available for the Chinese government to inspect at any time.
Yes.
And obviously, with Garmin, you've got everyone's basically the home address and the work address. And so, if Garmin wanted to operate in China and abroad, then that would mean that the Chinese government needs access to the servers and then have access to the home addresses of basically everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And so before this became a thing and some journalist wrote something up and Garmin would have got effed, Garmin did a thing where they split all their services in two. So when you sign up for Garmin now in China, you have to choose if you're like a Chinese resident or a non-Chinese resident.
Yeah.
And if you're a Chinese resident, you get put on special Chinese servers. But these Chinese accounts can't sync with Strava.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
I mean, so fair play to Garmin for like keeping government's noses out of things they shouldn't have their noses in.
Yeah.
But I think it was pretty bad of them not to let Chinese users sync with Strava for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's interesting. What about if you just had Strava on your computer and use a VPN and just plug your Brighton into the computer? That'll work, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So lots of the Chinese guys they'll just it's easy to get around it. You can just set up your Garmin account as a non-Chinese Garmin account.
Yeah.
And then so you sync your Garmin to your Garmin Connect or you sync your Wahoo to the Wahoo app or whatever, and then that'll sync to Strava no problem.
Yeah.
But if you're opening Strava on your PC without a VPN on, all the maps are just grey because the maps come from the Google servers.
That's right. Yeah, interesting. No, that's good. I reckon we'll wrap it here, and we'll do some more questions another time because I still got more information. But I appreciate it. Man. Very, very much so. All right, I'll just pause the convo. We'll just have a little chat afterwards. Thanks again, Joe. If you want to see more of Joe,
Thank you.
Just type in Joe. Type in China Cycling on YouTube, and we'll have Joe back again. I'm sure you'll have some questions. So write them down below, and we'll get back into it.
Thank you for having me.
That's cool, man.